Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Well-Appointed Mystic. For this video, as promised in my previous video, I am going to do sort of a full walkthrough and deck pairing of the Every Little Thing You Do Is Magic tarot deck and guidebook. So this was something that I came across just recently. I hadn't heard anyone else doing any reviews or deep dives into this, so based on my initial reaction to this deck, I couldn't wait to do some pairings and basically sort of talk about how much I dig this deck, and was really surprised because it's not normally the kind of thing that I go in for. I've tried to sort of embrace some of these more sort of modern collage decks, and I tend to go in for more sort of photorealistic, like Tarot of Mystical Moments. And so I'm just as excited and shocked as anyone that this is the deck that I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. So caveat, I'm going to say real nice things about this as I go through. So first off, the deck was created by Callie Little and Maria Seal. It comes from Clarkson Potter Publishers out of New York. The box it comes in is just I'm going to call it a half two-piece, 1.5 piece, I don't know like what to call it. Cute little illustrated star pattern on the inside, and then the 4 symbols of the minor arcana on the inside. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Carl Jung. So super cute, very fun. The deck came with this little card that you can follow the instructions and fold up and use to hold your sort of card pull of the day. I have not folded it up yet because I'm not entirely sure that I will use it. It's set up a mini altar in a special corner of your house and use this card stand to display your favorite card or card pull of the day. So there you go. So cute little sort of add in. I'm surprised, like a lot of decks would not have considered to include that, and as a designer, those are the little touches that I really appreciate. I mentioned before, this deck is very oversized. It is much larger than standard tarot card. I will use the same example I used before, which is a standard Llewellyn. This is from the B Tarot. Standard Llewellyn card. You can see it is a good 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch taller, and a good 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch wider. So it's a very big deck. I, of the little hands, would normally just have a sheer panic attack about this, but I'm going to let it slide because I really like this deck, and I'm going to learn to work with it. The edges are not painted. The cardstock is just a matte. There is a slight texture. It is not like official linen, but there's like a little bit of almost like a diamondy herringbone pattern. So anyway, super cute. I will pause briefly to discuss the guidebook, which is what I think sold me on this deck. Simple little guidebook, fits in the box, but for each of the cards, they include the numerology information, a crystal correspondence, this is my favorite part, mood music, and a scent. And I feel like even if you don't do anything with the scent, the moment where you can kind of study it and think about what that scent might evoke for you is a great way to sort of dive in. So I'm looking here at the Devil card, and the scent is your one true vice. So for me, I smell chocolate. Like chocolate buttercream frosting. It's very sinful, for lack of a better word. But yeah, and so I've had fun flipping through this and then yelling at my smart speaker to play various songs that I am not familiar with to see if I think that they correspond with the specific card. The beginning of each of the suits in the minor arcana includes a little bit more information about it in general, which I think is great. So like your elemental connection, concepts to explore. So even though it is not a heavy, big, thick book, like the core information is very key and very specific. And honestly, like I'm at the point now, and I've had this deck for, I don't know, a day or so, that I would almost recommend this deck to like a newbie, somebody who's just starting off, because I feel like it gives such wonderful little hints and flavor. So big push for me with this deck is that the illustrations included in the foreground of each of these is an animal. There are no people in this deck. There might be some human elements, but no actual human form representations as far as I can tell. I may have missed a card, but we'll go through it and maybe we'll find out. And then the background and the supporting elements are all collaged to create this like great amount of color and fun. I feel like this is sort of a modern equivalent of the Voyager tarot, which I never really warmed to. It was a little too 70s, 80s throwback for me, but this one seems to, it has all the things that that appeal to me. There's this humor as well as like all these elements in the guidebook. I'm enamored with it right now. I mean, the magician is a raccoon. Come on. So the high priestess is an owl. The empress is an otter. We have a ram for the emperor. An elephant for the hierophant, for they remember all. So again, I talked about there are some human elements here. So there's hands, but the focal point are these oyster shells. And for the lovers, I'm just, the idea that, a pearl comes from something that causes agitation, like the whole point of an oyster developing a pearl is that there was a bit of sand or grit that got inside and they create the pearl to protect themselves, is just such a cool addition to the idea of the lovers and choice and what are you going to do with the circumstance. It's turning lemons into lemonade kind of a vibe. The chariot is this, basically it's a horse, 2 horse bodies, 1 set of back legs. Just very interesting interpretation. I love the steps. Just strength is just the lion, which is, I'm okay with that. I mean, basically, if you put a lion on my strength card, I'm a happy camper. The hermit is this bird is hiding its face, its beak under its wing. And I think that that's a great representation of sort of taking a moment. It's not necessarily like the quote unquote sticking your head in the sand, but it is that taking that moment for yourself. Birds often do that when they're napping. And, to a certain extent, the hermit is kind of going off on your own and taking a moment to sort of process. So the Wheel of Fortune, it's just a very different interpretation, but I really appreciate it. I'm picking up on the messages that it's sending in a way that most cards I don't have a tendency to be like, I'm getting all these intuitive hits, because I always feel like I'm a bit of a phony if I say that. But this one, I'm like, I get it. I get what you're trying to communicate here. That sort of cyclone effect, reaching out for assistance. Sometimes we catch that hand that pulls us out of a situation, and other times we miss, and we kind of have to wait until the cyclone comes back around. So, Justice, this is a very peculiar, like multi-winged shape, but it's so cool. And I love that there's almost like an atom, like a nuclear kind of atom in the center. Just really, I got so excited about this one in my last video. I apologize if you guys have to listen to it again. But but it's like this crawfish with all these eyeballs on it. Like just hanging around. It's just, these are so good. I don't have to sit here and go through all of these, but I'll flip through a few more. Vulture for death. It's so accurate. You know, when something dies, a vulture gets a meal. And it can continue to live on in other ways. So I think it's a good representation of transformation and seeing things differently. And a lot of people don't like vultures, but you know, they got to eat too. Temperance. You've got the eagles or hawks in the background. I love that. Okay, so the goats have handcuffs, hoof cuffs, and this like little chain. And again, the hoof cuffs are not that tight, and there's a pair of scissors right here. So it's very much that sort of, you got yourself into this situation, let's figure out how to get ourselves out. The tower, I like that the flames are actually flower petals. It gives it a slightly different meaning. So where you think that the house isn't necessarily on fire, maybe you just think it is a cool way to sort of reinterpret that. The star card is just fun. So we have, again, the dog and the wolf. Unicorn for the sun. Judgment is that a leopard? Some of my wildcats is not as. And the butterfly, like just really nice. Coming out of the coffins. The world. You have all the characters, and then the path to the unknown. So we're getting into the minors. These are just so pretty. This 3 of Wands with the tools. That's like a great way to sort of express what are your next steps, what do you need to work on. The 4 of Wands. We've got all just pretty, just really pretty. I mean, this is great. What a great expression of sort of competitiveness. He's got his little ribbon on. Interesting. The 7 is kind of cutting out the conflict. Perfect for the 8. I'm just really enamored with all of these. So in this deck, they've changed the court cards from Page, Knight, Queen, and King to Apprentice, Champion, Oracle, and Elder. So we're in the Cups. It's interesting to see the heart, which we normally associate with the 3 of Swords, here in the 2 of Cups. But since the 2 of Cups is often about making those heart connections, I think that's a great transition. This 3 of Cups with the feast and these lovely all-seeing flowers. Very sad flower. So you have your baby bear, sort of mama bear and papa bear kind of thing, to create that sort of, is he dreaming and remembering his youth and his childhood? Seven is really, the color's great. little pup with everything. This one I was a little surprised. I know that these are like happy foxes, but they kind of look like they're attacking each other to me. But all the other elements kind of stick with the RWS, so I think it's an adequate. Like I can gather the meaning there. So then here's our apprentice, our champion, the oracle, so pretty, and the elder. I do like a seahorse, so. The swords, so we have the Ace of Swords, the Two of Swords. I like that fingers are sort of pointing to the different, like making a choice between this and this kind of thing. So the Three of Swords, not going to be everybody's favorite, but I think that they did a good job of keeping this sort of RWS whilst adding the bird. I like this Four of Swords. I think that's a red panda, but I'm not sure. And the 5. And the 6. Puffin with the, it looks like a volcano. It just seems, I definitely have to read a little in the book about why they made that particular selection there. The 7, of course, a fox. It's perfect. The 8. Nine. He does not look happy. Oh, this 10 is rough. So then we have the apprentice. I love the ant with the sword. The champion. The oracle. And then the elder. This is probably the closest we've had to like a full human figure in the whole thing, and it's actually just a statue of the thinker. So now we have the pentacles. This is the ace, very green and lush. The 2, keeping the lemniscate there. The 3, I think this is a beehive, and we have 3 bees here, so definitely a reference to working together as bees do. I love this guy, like holding on to his coin, little lizard. I'm not quite sure what type of lizard, but he's charming. The 5, thinking about sort of, this almost reminds me of like breaking open the piggy bank and getting the change out. Like you're so desperate for sort of a financial solution that you're willing to break into that sort of the last piggy bank, the looking in the couch for coins kind of a thing. The 6. The 7, sort of growing those flowers. The 8. Busy beavers. 9. So pretty. And then the 10. And then we've just got a couple left, and then we'll go into our pairings. So this is the apprentice, which would be the page, the knight, the champion, the queen. And again, this is a case where this is the closest we've had to a human figure, but it is also a sculpture. And then the elder. Pretty cool. So anyway, so like I said, very excited about this deck. I'm surprised how much I like it. But then what really tickled me was when I started pairing this with other decks. So, all right, we're going to try to shuffle. Finally I get to shuffle it because I've kept it in order just so I could do a video. So, and you're going to watch how somebody with tiny, tiny hands shuffles a giant deck. So I have to shuffle them sideways because my hands aren't big enough. So I'll give this another. I don't shuffle in reverses, not unless it's an accident. So I'll do one more. So actually it shuffles pretty well sideways. So if you have little hands too, I think you can actually survive that. So let's talk about pairings. So one of my first pairings was the Nocturna Oracle. Since this deck is so light, it has all these like cream colored borders. I wondered what something that was very dark, how that would work with it. So, and again, because the Nocturna is all animals, I feel like it's a real, like visually, such a great storytelling. So I just really like this pairing, and I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it. The Nocturna does have other elements, but like the idea of the fog, it's like getting from hard work to completion. There may be something obscuring your way. So I just think that this is a lovely pairing. I won't go through the whole decks, but just a couple more so you can see. So just really nice storytelling. The artwork really complements each other, and I just think this is very interesting combo. I feel like sort of dreaming of these sort of, you know, reminiscing or holding on to the past, and the expectation of like that perfect 10 of Cups world might poke you in the butt. So anyway, so I think that this is a really good mix. The Nocturna Oracle with every little thing you do is a magic. Let's do the next one. Oh, we're going to cut this deck so we're not all looking at the same cards over and over again. So I didn't want to pair everything with animal decks. So one of the other ones that I pulled out right away was the Magical Herb Oracle. Just to have, so you've still nature elements, but a little bit different vibe. So you have your animals, and then you have an herbal addition. And I think that they hold together. I think because there's the warm color tones and these bright pops of color, you know, my eye catches on this one. The root matches the beehive and the lion. So it just kind of works. I was really surprised. Like the more I played around with this, like the more Oracle decks that I found that sort of hung. I mean, the dandelion with the lion. Come on, people! Like it just wants to be. It just wants to be. So we'll pull this out. So that was the Magical Herb Oracle. Everyone has seen this deck by now, I'm sure. I'm not showing you anything you haven't seen before. The next one I pulled out was the Illustrated Crystallary Oracle, which there's a whole series of these, if you're not familiar with them, from Maya Toll, illustrated by Kate O'Hara. So there's the Crystallary, the Bestiary, and what's the other one? Animals? And the Herbiary. That's what it is. So crystals, animals, and plants. And since I showed the Magical Herb, I thought I would pull out the Crystallary, which, again, I was a little shocked at how nice these balanced visually. They are also very similar in size. It's giant decks. But even though this artwork is more kind of sketchbooky, sort of graphite drawings, and these are more finished, illustrative, sort of painted style. I feel like they really hang together, and maybe it's there's a real similarity in color palette that might help. But yeah, like Full of Riches, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Page of Cups. Pretty cool. So this was another case where I was just surprised. I mean, what a nice balance. These two cards would be very hard standing on their own. You know, the Tower being a real shakeup, feeling financially vulnerable, and then there are worlds within you. You know, so it's like you have the strength to deal with these other issues. So I do think that these are just a really nice pairing. I mean, just look, we've got the dragon and the snake. Just really I really like this. And actually, of all of these, I use the Crystallary deck probably the most often, and this was another case when I purchased it that I was not expecting to like this deck as much as I did. But yeah, the Crystallary I use most, followed by the Herbiary, and I really don't use the Bestiary very much. And I don't know if it's because I do like animal tarot decks, so it's kind of, sometimes I don't want an animal overdose, like too many. So did I warn you that I had a bunch of pairings because I just kept pairing decks. So this is the Star Code Astro Oracle, which is often a deck that I really like to use, but I find this difficult to pair. So just because it's the visual style is pretty unusual, pretty different, but I feel like this actually holds together. There's something about these that really work nicely. So I mean, even though this artwork is very much feels like a sort of computer-generated illustration, no shade there. This is beautifully executed. There's tons of detail, but the fine detail and the very clean lines is very different than this, which has much, you know, more sketchy kind of illustrations. But I think there's a real harmony here visually as well as the messages, and so being able to combine the animals with the more astrological, I think, is a great option. So this is probably a more of a stretch visually, but I do really like it, and there are quite a few animals in here, so I think that that is nice. The Knight of Cups, the Ten of Pentacles, and Juno partnership. You know, I always think of the, oh, this is the Oracle, this is the Queen of Cups, I'm sorry. But yeah, like, I think there's a real harmony here. I think they're playing nicely together despite their sort of visual difference. So we've got two kings with tension. I imagine if you have these two individuals in your life, there might be a little tension. Like, so yeah, I just think that this is a good and interesting pairing. I mean, the color, these blues are really harmonized, and even these like warmer sort of bronzy tones. So if you have the Astro Codes, the Star Codes Astro deck, and you've been looking for something to pair it with, you know, you might have an excuse to buy the Every Little Thing is Magic tarot deck now. Okay, I have two more to pair. One of them is like a total gimme, and then the other one is the Green Witch Oracle deck, which I went on a little tirade about, but I was like, you know what, in an effort to give it a fair shake, despite my reservations, one of the things I thought was really interesting is that the backs, even though illustratively they're very different, there's a real balance there, and that was sort of my first cue that maybe I needed to get my head out of my butt. So I'm going to give these a quick shuffle. And I'm shuffling off screen because I'm embarrassed by how badly I shuffle. Okay, fine, you can see it. Okay, so there's my shuffle. But color-wise, the fact that these both have these very similar borders, the color in the background is almost the same. This is a little more ivory. This is a little more tan in color. Was the first thing that sort of caught my attention. Was aesthetically they do hang together. They're both illustrated. This is a little bit more detailed illustration, where this is a little bit simpler and more expressive. You know, expressive as an expressionist, not like suggesting that this does not have any expression. This is just different. It's just more detailed, but there's, you know, lovely little elements in here. But anyway, giving it a good shuffle and not over analyzing the content of the Green Witch Oracle deck, I'm appreciating how these hang together. So from here to the leaves, which is renewal, revival, and progress, and the Hierophant. Just think it's kind of a nice little, it talks nicely, despite all my reservations about this, about the Green Witch's Oracle deck. It tells good stories, I think, and I probably should have given it its fair shake. So this is fruit, achievement, and success with the Fool and the Four of Cups. So telling a little bit different story, I think. You know, not overlooking something. It does look like it has a rune in there, so that might require looking it up in the guidebook to see if there's an explanation there. So yeah, there's some potential here. Are you seeing it as I am? Because I do feel like I'm sort of diving in a little bit more deeply with the messaging on the Green Witch Oracle deck with these tarots, with these tarot cards that I think makes for interesting storytelling. So the last one, and like I said, this one was like, you know, slow pitch, easy peasies. This is the Sacred Creators Oracle. And surprisingly, for as easy as this deck is to use with a lot of things, I don't tend to use it a lot, and I probably should. It's one of Chris Ann's decks. This one is mostly just text, and I feel like it's one of those Oracle decks when all else fails. This one seems to work because it's just text on a color, and sometimes that's what you're looking for, is just needing that clarity, that message. You know, so we have Pentacles, Creator Earth, and Temperance. So I do think that this works. The Sacred Flow of Yes, between the Two of Wands and the Wheel of Fortune. So I feel like this is definitely, if you were to pull this as like a clarifier, it's like it's saying that whatever's going on, whatever you're sort of focusing on, yes, keep doing it, keep moving forward. So limitations inspire innovation. So from here where you're waiting, and here with conflict, and you know, those limitations can help inspire you. So I do think that this is doing what it needs to. Visually, is it a perfect match? No. But I do think that it helps to clarify if you're having, you know, if you need that kind of thing. So I do think that this is a good option. Probably of the lot, my favorites are, I would say actually probably the Crystallary and then Nocturna. I do like star codes with it as well. But yeah, so that is my deck pairings with the Every Little Thing You Do is Magic deck. I'm inches away from starting to build a playlist on Apple Music with the songs that they recommend, and then for each of these cards, and then also digging in and figuring out if there are other songs that I think are better matches in some instances. You know, like I'm surprised that The Magician wasn't immediately a David Bowie song, but that's just me. That's, you know, that's how I roll. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not heard of this deck, I hope that this inspired you to give it a chance, give it a look-see. I'll include links in the description for where to find it. I do use affiliate links, which are just easier to use, honestly. I'm not expecting to make my fortune off the pennies on the dollar that I get when you click on a link, but if you do, I would greatly appreciate it. Every little bit helps, and it helps to pay for future card purchases. So anyway, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have this deck, what have you been pairing it with? Please let me know in the comments, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.